The year is 1299. India stands at a crossroads, its fate hanging in the balance as the world beyond its borders shifts and trembles. The sun scorches the plains near Delhi, baking the earth into a hard, cracked crust. The air shimmers with heat, and the land seems to hold its breath, waiting for something to break the silence. A lone scout of the Delhi Sultanate rides the empty expanse, his eyes scanning the horizon. Suddenly he spots a brown smudge, too wide, too low and growing fast, a sign of something unnatural. The ground trembles beneath his horse, each hoofbeat sending up tiny clouds of dust. The earth itself seems to shudder in anticipation. It's not thunder, but the approach of 100,000 hooves. The Mongols are here, their numbers so vast they seem to darken the very sky with dust. The scout turns, spurring his horse toward Delhi, desperate to deliver his warning before it's too late. Every second counts as he races against the oncoming storm. Behind him, the dust cloud swells, a monstrous wave of destruction rolling ever closer, threatening to swallow everything in its path. The Golden Horde, riders of the apocalypse, have come for India. Their reputation for brutality and conquest precedes them, striking terror into all who hear their name. He rides harder, knowing the fate of Delhi hangs on his message. The city's defenses depend on his speed and courage. The Mongols are not just raiders, they are conquerors, led by Kutlug Khwaja, a descendant of Genghis Khan. Their ambition is as boundless as their cruelty. Their goal, nothing less than to seize Delhi and add India's legendary wealth to their empire, to make the city a jewel in the Mongol crown. The scout's warning is the first alarm in a battle for India's soul. The city stirs, its people unaware of the storm about to descend. He can only hope he reaches the Sultan in time, his heart pounding with fear and determination. The city's fate, and perhaps the subcontinent's, depends on his speed. Every moment lost could mean disaster for thousands. The dust cloud behind him is now a wall, stretching across the horizon, blotting out the sun and casting a shadow over the land. He imagines the Mongol vanguard closing in, ruthless, relentless, their faces set with grim purpose. Every beat of his horse's hooves is a countdown to disaster, echoing the urgency of his mission. The scout does not look back, he cannot afford to. The future of his people rides with him. He prays his warning will be enough, that the city will have time to prepare for the onslaught. The Mongols are almost at the gates, their banners fluttering in the wind, their weapons gleaming in the harsh sunlight. The storm is about to break, and the fate of Delhi will be decided in the shadow of the dust cloud. To understand the terror sweeping India, we must look beyond the borders of the subcontinent and into the heart of the vast Eurasian steppe. We must understand the Mongols, a people whose name became synonymous with fear and conquest across continents. They were not just an army, they were a force that redrew the world's map in a single generation, building the largest contiguous land empire in history. Genghis Khan, a visionary and ruthless leader, united the Mongolian tribes, forging the most mobile, disciplined military machine the world had ever seen. Their cavalry swept across Asia like a storm, toppling empires from the mighty Chinese dynasties to the ancient kingdoms of Persia, and even reaching the gates of Europe. The Mongols offered cities a stark choice: surrender and survive, or resist and face utter destruction. Their tactics were ruthless and calculated, slaughtering entire populations, burning cities to the ground and leaving nothing but wastelands in their wake. Masters of psychological warfare, they moved with terrifying speed, living off the land and striking before their enemies could even prepare. By the late 1200s, the once unified empire fractured into several khanates, each ruled by a different branch of Genghis Khan's descendants. The Chagatai Khanate, controlling Central Asia, now turned its gaze southward and threatened India's borders. Led by the ambitious Kutlug Khwaja, they saw India's legendary riches, its cities and treasures, as their next great prize. This was no mere raid. This was a full-scale invasion, planned and executed with the precision that made the Mongols so feared. The Mongols' reputation for brutality preceded them. Terrified refugees flooded the countryside, bringing stories of annihilated cities and vanished peoples. Their armies were expert horse archers, famed for their deadly accuracy, using feigned retreats and sudden devastating charges to break even the strongest defenses. Now, that unstoppable force was aimed at Delhi, the heart of medieval India's power and culture. As the Mongol horde approached, India braced for the storm, uncertain if anything could withstand the fury of the steppe. Delhi's throne belonged to Alauddin Khalji, a ruthless, ambitious sultan. He seized power through bloodshed and ruled with an iron fist. Paranoid but brilliant, he centralized power, broke the nobles, and built a massive standing army. Alauddin's Delhi was a fortress, its walls strengthened, its markets tightly controlled to fund war. He paid his soldiers directly, ensuring loyalty. Spies and informants kept him alert to threats inside and out. When the Mongol threat loomed, Alauddin was ready. He had built a state for war, and now war had come. The fate of his empire rested on his leadership. Delhi would not fall without a fight. News of the Mongol invasion sent Delhi into panic. Markets emptied, doors barred, and refugees flooded the city, bringing tales of devastation. The Mongol army was vast, a nation on the move. Alauddin Khalji acted swiftly, calling his war council. Some urged a defensive siege, but Alauddin refused to hide behind walls. He knew surrendering the countryside would embolden his enemies. He chose to meet the Mongols in open battle, a bold gamble. The city transformed, soldiers armed, blacksmiths toiled, and war elephants were prepared. The Sultan himself would lead the army, inspiring his men. The Delhi army marched out, a river of steel, archers, cavalry, and armored elephants. The Mongols had never faced such a force. The battlefield was chosen, Kili. The fate of India would be decided there. The city held its breath. On the plains of Kili, two titanic armies faced off. The Mongols, endless horsemen, swift and deadly. The Sultanate, armored infantry, cavalry, and war elephants. Alauddin commanded the center, a symbol of resolve. On the left, General Zafar Khan, famed for his courage, prepared for action. The Mongols unleashed a storm of arrows, then charged. The Delhi army held firm, their elephants looming behind. The battle raged, chaotic, brutal, neither side yielding. The Mongols were surprised by the discipline of their foes. The deadlock begged for a decisive move. Zafar Khan was ready to seize the moment. Zafar Khan, a brilliant and daring general, saw the Mongol flank falter and knew this was the moment to strike. He understood the risks, but his sense of duty and courage outweighed any hesitation. Without waiting for orders, he rallied his men and led a thunderous cavalry charge, smashing through the Mongol line with unmatched ferocity. The ground shook beneath the hooves of his warriors as they crashed into the enemy. His attack was devastating, sending the enemy wing into a panicked retreat. For a moment, it seemed as if victory was within grasp, but it was a trap. The cunning Mongols lured him deep into their ranks, then suddenly surrounded him with a hidden reserve force, cutting off any hope of escape. Zafar Khan and his loyal men were now isolated, hopelessly outnumbered by the enemy on all sides. The Mongols, impressed by his valor, offered him a chance to surrender. But Zafar Khan, true to his honor, refused to yield or betray his cause. He and his men fought to the last breath, selling their lives dearly in a desperate, heroic last stand that would be remembered for generations. Their stand became legend, a display of courage and sacrifice that shook the Mongols to their core and inspired awe among their own people. The psychological blow was immense. For the first time, the invaders had met a foe as fearless and unyielding as themselves. Zafar Khan's sacrifice became a rallying cry, inspiring the Sultanate's army to fight with renewed determination and unity. The Mongols, unnerved and shaken by the ferocity of the resistance, lost their momentum and began to falter. The tide of battle had turned decisively, with Indian forces regrouping and the invaders forced to withdraw. The cost was high, with many brave souls lost. But the message was clear: India would not yield easily to any invader. Zafar Khan's name would echo through history, immortalized in stories, songs, and monuments as a symbol of ultimate sacrifice. His sacrifice not only changed the course of the war, but also inspired generations to come with the spirit of resistance and valor. As Zafar Khan fell, the main battle raged on. The Mongols, shaken and bloodied, could not break Alauddin's lines. Night fell on a field of carnage. Realizing victory was impossible, Kutlug Khwaja ordered a retreat. The Mongol horde slipped away under darkness, leaving Delhi untouched. At dawn, the Sultanate's army found the enemy gone. They had won. The victory at Kili was monumental. India had repelled the world's most feared army. Alauddin's rule was solidified. His reforms and discipline had paid off. Zafar Khan was mourned as a hero, his sacrifice legendary. The Mongols would never again invade India with such force. The wall had held. India had stared down the Mongol storm and survived. The legacy of Kili would endure for centuries.